DevOps Iterations.
And here we are, second abnormal iteration with nobody less than Kris Buytaert, who is a legend in the DevOps world, I would say. So, first of all, Kris, how are you? What are you doing in these times?
Playing with new tools and actually recovering from a full month of almost back-to-back DevOps days. So, and kickstarting conflict management camp again, 2025. So
yeah, so usual business.
It's been a busy month. Yeah, we had the 15th year anniversary of DevOps Days in Antwerp a couple of weeks ago. So after 15 years, we figured it was time to go back to where we actually started the conference, where Patrick and I met, and we had a good conference in Antwerp. And then I went to Vilnius, Keynote DevOps Days Vilnius, and then I went to Porto for DevOps Days Porto. And now I'm home for at least, I guess, a month and a half. So it's good to be home now.
Do you have an idea of how many conferences did you organize over the years?
That I actually actively organized over the years. First 5 years, then 20-something, 30. But there's a difference about actually organizing them and being involved. Like,
indeed.
After the 5 first years, we moved to a more model where the local teams were doing things, and not just Patrick and me. And we got a global core organization that really started organizing and really started coaching things, and we were still active there, but it was different. I mean, we weren't actively involved in doing things. So I was still involved in a couple, but less active. And then Ghent, obviously, Antwerp now, 15th year anniversary, 10th year anniversary. Those were the ones I was really involved in, and I was helping out with things like Prague and Amsterdam and Eindhoven and a couple of others left and right.
If I remember well, your organization skills starts from the very past with the demo scene, right? You told me about some demo scene party.
That's a long time ago. Wired 94, 95, I guess. Probably till 96. I don't remember. That was when I was doing Wired. At least part of the team running part of the demo compo. I was involved in a couple of others too. Yeah. That's ages ago.
So since the beginnings, you had this vocation.
How many people in the audience will actually know what we're talking about now?
Well, no, I don't care. If it's about the demo scene, it's good to share the word and let people know. So, 15 years of DevOps Days. Did the promise, was the promise fulfilled in some way of the DevOps promise?
Sorry, can you say that again?
The DevOps, let's say, proposition. What DevOps is about, what is the problems that the DevOps approach, let's call it in that way, or a mentality or culture, is expected and was expected to solve. Were they solved over the years?
No. And I don't think we'll ever solve them. Because they're not technical. They're not something you solve once and then it's fixed. It's something you need to keep doing over and over again. The whole idea of you fix it once and it's done. It's like new people join, organizations change. It's a constant struggle to get into. To me, it is about constantly trying to improve the quality of software delivery, to improve the speed and make sure that the quality improved or stays the same. and that is what it is about. But it's never a solved problem.
Do you think it will never be solved then? Never again in the future. There is no way. I mean, it's a journey, so to say. No, as a
Yeah,
security,
it is
it's
a journey,
process.
and when you are at the point where I say, yeah, this is really good, this is awesome, we can do things faster. There's gonna be new things that pop up and new things you need to solve. There's gonna be new people in the team that you need to teach over and over again. There's gonna be new teams that need to be onboarded and changed. You're going to build a new service, a new product, and that team is going to struggle with doing things. They're going to dislike the way you as an organization do things, and are going to try to do things different. And in a lot of cases, they're going to fail. Sometimes they're going to succeed, but you're never going to be at a point where you say, yeah, for the next 5 years, we're going to be fine. It's going to evolve.
Still, some benefits, at least to the IT world, was provided, I guess. No, I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we moved from doing manual things for a lot of organizations to actually doing things stable, fast, reproducible. But it's not like we solved it for everybody. I think 12, 13 years ago, we were giving talks about DevOps is here, but it's not evenly distributed, and I don't think it's evenly distributed now. Even within different organizations, it really depends on the team, the part of the organization you're in. There could be organizations where there's one team, one part of the organization that really works together, that really is working in a way that we would say this is what DevOps should look like. And then maybe another part of the organization is completely broken and struggling to keep things up and running and struggling to get things deployed to production. There's no one size fits all way of doing things. There's no, if you implement these and these steps and these and these culture rules, then things are going to work. It really is a constant adaptation to how certain organizations will work together and how they will behave.
Yeah, indeed. What will be DevOps about in, let's say, 5 years, 10 years, when you will celebrating the 30th anniversary of DevOps Days?
The
what
30th year anniversary. Oh, wait, that's in 5th. Maybe I'll be retired by then, 15 years. I don't know.
But you will still be organizing conferences, I guess, just for fun.
I don't know.
At least this one.
I don't know. It's been 15 years, so maybe it's time to let the young crew. I mean, there's a lot of newer people who pick up, who run events locally, so that's definitely already evolving. But if you ask me where DevOps will be in 5 years, I think the best way to answer that question is to quote Nicole Forgan when she was in a panel at Delivery Conf. What was that? Beginning of 2020, when we were still allowed to go to places like that. Small couple of months then. Delivery Conf happened in Seattle, and there was a panel with Nicole and a couple of other people who were involved in the continuous delivery scene for ages. And people pretty much asked the same question: where do you see continuous delivery in 5 years? Her answer literally was, finally fucking doing it. And I think for a lot of people, that is where they want to be in 5 years. Like having that team that collaborates, that is capable of delivering software faster than they used to do now, with less risk, with higher quality. And for a lot of people, that is a goal they're still working to, that they're still trying to achieve.
And how do you see the evolution of IT with these more and more complex ecosystems we try to make things easier on the surface for the end users?
We're not making them easier. We're making them, like, for years we've been saying Java is laying abstraction over abstraction over abstraction over abstraction over abstraction, and it got too complex. And we're doing literally the same with pretty much everything in our industry. We've got the problem where a lot of the new and young people in our industry don't understand the basics anymore. Like, they don't understand how the internet works. They don't understand how email is being sent. But they're running this highly complex distributed system, which is built on networking, and they have no clue how it works underneath. But they can deploy something simple that works on some RFC 1918 address. And then they don't understand why somebody on the other side of the planet actually can't see it. And when I gave a similar example on this, I was told later after Q&A session at a conference a couple of months ago, weeks ago, I gave it in Vilnius. Somebody came up to me and said, yeah, well, but that's the problem. Do you really expect people to know what RFC 1918 is? I was like, yeah, maybe that's not the right way to put it. Maybe they shouldn't know about the numbers. Maybe they shouldn't know what an RFC is, but they should know the difference between public internet and private internet and local network addresses. And the complexity we're at right now is that a lot of people, they have no clue. They don't understand how the internet works. And if we don't have that basic stuff, why are we making things more complex? At what benefit?
Yeah, and still things are getting more complex, and there's always more and more. No, so the point is, you're right in saying that we are losing let's say, the grounds. But now to be able to do something in the IT, either you do directly with the, you are new to the field, you develop your stuff, you do what it needs to be done. You have the tools, the languages, all the things to make it easy to actually do wonderful things very quickly, which were a pain to do in the past, like also things like which auto scale, which have redundancy and everything, and you can do that. But at the same time, being able to know everything there is so much more compared to 20 years.
There's no way you can know everything. But in a way, 15 years ago, when we started discussing DevOps, when we started discussing collaboration, remember the wall of confusion? Remember the gap between development and operations, and developers built something in their sprints, and then like when it was time to release something, it was like, hey, ops, here's a problem, throw it over the wall. In a lot of organizations, I feel like that gap is even bigger now. That wall is even higher because of the complexity. We've abstracted so many things away from what really is needed to run something that it get abstraction layer over abstraction layer over abstraction layer. And even it's not only developers, it's mostly managers and people who are buying things who have no idea of the complexity of these systems. They want to do things in-house, they want to do things on-prem, they want it to look like cloud, but I have no idea about the complexity they're asking. It's like draw a bird, right? Like you draw a circle, you draw a couple of lines, and magically there's a bird. And nobody knows how to do that. But we keep working like that. And that is, to me, that's a huge risk. Because, yes, there's going to be a bunch of people who know the in and outs of all the stacks they're running. There's going to be a bunch of people who understand it. But I'm not sure if in 15 years, those people are still going to be around. Like, look at the age of the people building the Linux kernel. They're not getting any younger. And getting new people involved that are still working on that level, it's a challenge.
It is. So I guess your opinion about platform engineering in terms of stratification and things and maybe quite elaborated. So can you elaborate on platform engineering? What is your take on that? And
what is
also,
platform engineering?
what is platform engineering? Is the idea of doing this internal developer platform to provide developers, internal users, an easy way to build up their systems and develop stuff.
Yeah, that's what we did 10 years ago. Like, we gave people a Vagrant box. We said them, if you develop in this box and you commit your code, then you modify these couple of YAML files, and there's going to be a pipeline. That pipeline gets triggered. You fill in your tests. You run the test, it succeeds, it gets deployed, right? That's platform engineering.
Okay, so it's just a name out of nothing in a sort of
To me,
opposition to
platform engineering
DevOps.
is what we've been doing, depending on the organizational structure, for ages. Like, some organizations had cross-functional teams that could do end-to-end delivery. Other organizations were too small, but they needed to support multiple development teams. And the only way to be able to support multiple development teams was by standardizing, and automating everything outside it, so that the teams could do self-service, spinning up environments that looked really similar to what the other teams were using. That's not my phone that's ringing, by the way.
No, it's mine, but I
Okay.
guess we can go with that.
So that's what we did. We built self-service platforms that developers could consume. And if they wanted to start a new project, they could just spin up by writing a couple of config files. They could automatically spin up something and do things themselves. I don't see where the hype is coming from, because that's what we did for ages. We just didn't have a fancy name for it.
Okay, but I guess it's all about...
And in a way,
names.
I even prefer, if you look at job titles, I even prefer somebody calling himself a platform engineer rather than a DevOps engineer, because when he says, I'm a platform engineer, or when they say they're a platform engineer, or it's actually clear what you're doing, as opposed to you're building and helping to build that self-service platform for developers, and you're supporting the developers. Whereas if you're saying you're a DevOps engineer, I still don't know what you're doing. So I don't have a problem with platform engineering. I don't care if we call it DevOps, or platform engineering, or like I said this for ages when I was helping people to do transitions. Like, don't call it a DevOps transformation, because you're going to get people who discuss about what is it, because they read things on the internet. Call it engineering 2.0, calling faster delivery, call it next generation pipeline, whatever. Call it platform engineering. If your team identifies with, hey, this is what we're doing, then platform engineering is what you're doing.
So things are changing always in the IT world, and the things that we learned 20 years ago are the foundations for our knowledge, but in some way are also something that are totally useless now, mostly useless for our current activities. And we have to expect that the same thing is going to happen in the future. How do you see the IT landscape evolving in the next 1, 5, 10, and 20 years, so to say?
The tools we were using 20 years ago, they're obsolete. But the patterns we learned, they're not obsolete. They're either still exactly the same, or they've changed in size, in speed, in velocity. But they're still the same. They're still applications talking to backends. We're running in circles. We're going from fat clients to middleware to microservices and to monoliths again. We're going to do that cycle. We're going to go from doing things in your physical data center to doing it in a private cloud to doing it in somebody else's computer. I mean, if you look at what's happening now with things like Oxide and with back to the back to bare metal movement.
Yeah, but I would say these are. I always say that it is so large and different and heterogeneous that you can see everything. But I guess there are also some big trends. No? So I personally, for example, don't think that the back to the your hardware will be a big trend. There will be people doing that. There will be people starting to, but I guess moving to the cloud is becoming more and more popular, and probably will be more and more common, and probably even totally more and more cloud managed services. So something that you don't even need to care about, and probably more and more abstracted. So you don't even need to care too much about networking, firewalling, whatever. You need to care about your stuff on the internet and your web, your application, and that will be somehow magically, as you say, by other people who are supposed to provide a service. So in some way, you really don't need the internal competencies, skills.
You're still gonna, the people that build these things, the people that have that knowledge, they're going to be the ones that are building those stacks. They're not going to disappear. They're just going to be in somebody else's team.
Yes,
and they're
but
going to
they
be
will be
dealing
more
with
and more
problems at a different
concentrated,
scale.
Probably more and more concentrated in few big, huge hyperscalers.
I don't think they're going to be all in the hyperscalers. There's more and more, definitely if you look at Europe, there's more and more movement to build European clouds to have clouds, but not just the big hyperscalers. And that's an evolution that needs to happen. We want the flexibility to be able to deploy anywhere where we want, whether that's on a hyperscaler if you really need it, or on a more, what do you call a cloud which is not a hyperscaler?
A small
A
cloud.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about the big elephant in the hype room, the AI things that are happening?
So it's funny you mentioned, we at DevOps Days, the 15th year anniversary, we had a huge elephant in the room. It was actually, if you've seen the picture, it was on the Organizers Summit Day. We actually had the skeleton of an elephant, and it was already completely sliced. I mean, there was no meat left anymore. You just could see straight through it. That was a fun discussion. Like, what about AI? It's one of those typical hype things. Yes, there's value in there. No, it's not the value that the big marketing people are shouting about now. That's not what we should be looking at. It's not going to replace us. I mean, if you still look at the code that's being generated, you still need to review that code and understand what's going on before you can get it to production. It's going to save us times in some places, but the advantages are going to be in other places where we don't notice them there. There, however, is, as with all the adoption of those things, also the risk that we need to look into and the opportunities. And we need to, I think that's where our age starts to show. We just need to take a step back and see, and like, where does this make sense? Where does this not make sense? And then embrace it for the right reasons. And not like a bunch of other people say, like, hey, oh, right, that's where all the money is. Let's do this and let's get some money. And we have no fucking clue what we're doing, because that's what a bunch of the other people are doing. And that's going to be the reason why in the short term, all the money is going there. In the long term, it's going to balance out again, and we're going to use it for the relevant things. Because it is something that for ages has been around. I mean, back in 1996, we were doing the early days of AI. I was doing projects which were based on Patimas's work at MIT, the early days of collaborative filtering. And then there's been 20 years of slow evolution. And then the last couple of years, we've seen a boost where new fun stuff was happening. But the early hype days, I was still looking at it like, I have not seen anything new yet. It's changed over now. But definitely like 2-3 years ago, it's like, nope, this is what we could do 20 years ago. It's just faster now.
And do you think there will be another AI winter, or this time is easier to stay?
It's hard to predict. I'm a bit more afraid of the nuclear winter.
Okay.
Like 3 Mile Island. You heard about that?
Yeah, definitely. But I
That
guess it's out of discussion for our chat list. But yeah,
I know. I'm not sure if that's out of discussion. I mean, that kind of stuff scares me. Like if we start reopening nuclear plants because we need to compute, we need the power for compute. I mean, I'm not sure if that's a good idea.
yeah, that's a wide discussion, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's also a part of the elephant, no? The power it
Yeah.
takes and it needs, and it
The
hits.
power it takes, the energy it consumes, compared to the results. And I think that is where there's going to be a huge challenge. Like, yes, it's valid. Yes, it's usable. But what is the cost? And is that cost relevant for it? And I think now a bunch of the gimmicks we see, like, hey, we generate images and we do movies and we do fun stuff. I guess that's a lot of waste, but that's not what the relevant stuff is. I mean, there's a lot of relevant stuff going on, but that's not what the mass public sees.
Right.
And that's, in a way, a thing that scares me. Like, they see the fancy, hey, I put somebody's voice on this, like, okay, cool, but the actual value. There is value in what's happening.
Did you find any particular and specific tool, AI tool, which you found particularly valuable and useful?
I've been playing with a bunch of tools, but in a lot of cases, to me, it's like if you look at the news and there's some IT topic and somebody explains it in a way like, and you start laughing because it's explained so basically, or even basically that it's almost wrong. It's in a way where the AIs give me as a result. Like, if it's something I don't know a lot about, it might look good. But if I ask it specific things to generate me really specific things, it's typically not yet at a level that it's usable for me. And in a way, then I'm sometimes scared of, definitely when we're talking content, what's going to come out of it. I think we need to figure out how to do it on restricted datasets that we own, where we know that the quality of the data is correct and that the quality of the data is good. If we're talking about language models and generative AI, and that's going to be a challenge, because if we just consider the internet as a data source, there's so much crap on the internet that you can't trust it to be a good source for Gen AI. But that's only, like I said, that's only part of the discussion, but it's the most visible one, obviously.
Your personal opinion on the European AI Act?
No idea. Haven't been following.
Let's say the idea of somehow regulating AI, which also poses some limitations and potentially.
You mean Silicon Valley creates, China copies, Europe regulates?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that if you regulate in Europe and in the rest of the world keeps on doing whatever it can do, in some way we are somehow, but in some way also companies, let's say, offering AI services or products or models in Europe have to follow European laws. So this may have this double-sided effect, no? Of
Yep. I think in a way it's similar to privacy, right? I mean, some US-based sites blocked this off and said, no, you cannot do this. But we also see, like, a lot of the data that we can generate cannot be consumed, also not by the non-European companies. So in a way, our data, our privacy is being protected, as opposed to where other people don't have that privacy anymore. I think that's kind of an advantage, but I think it's really early days to figure out where all of that is heading and what's going on.
I guess we will see. When you will be 1 year old, this is a question I ask in this time. What kind of computer you will be using? What will be like your computer when you will be
When I will
100
be how
years?
old?
100 years. When, I mean, it will happen. I hope you will get that age. So it will be somehow in, I don't know how many years. Many, I guess. How do you see the future of
I've seen this.
personal
I've seen this
computing?
cartoon a couple of weeks ago about the age you were and the type of device you use, and it was basically going from a laptop with a full screen and a keyboard to people using their watch, and it had to do with generations. And I think it was Gen X was working on a laptop or a desktop with a full screen and a keyboard, and the youngest kids, they were just doing things on their watch and doing things on their cell phone, and that's the only ecosystem they have. In a way, I don't see myself move to smaller devices, because I want the speed of being able to type, and I want to have a screen where I can see what I'm doing. And well, if you reach that age, I guess my eyesight will be even less. So I need the screen to be bigger with a larger font as opposed to smaller than.
But you will probably still have a QWERTY keyboard under the hands.
Yeah, because I guess that's going to be what's fastest for me, rather than swiping things and doing things. Because I guess that's a generational gap.
Talking and just saying things. We will see, I guess, and I hope. Out of curiosity, one person you know that I should invite to this podcast, you recommend?
Who did you already have? I don't know.
No, just one you. I know. I have my own list, but I would
You
like
have your
to.
own list. What's the goal of the podcast? We didn't even get into that. It's abnormal DevOps iterations, and I guess all of them are abnormal.
I mean, abnormal is about the approach, I guess, the accent, and the idea of trying to do things in a different way. And as you see, also the symbol has a sort of abnormal loop.
So people
so
trying
to
do things different, like.
Yeah, but also iterating over things. So maybe trying different approaches or having different kind of people talking about, DevOps, IT, AI, this kind of stuff. I mean, the stuff that I like to talk and discuss about.
Doing things different, like there's doing culture different is always hard. So many people try different approaches. So I could give you a couple of names, but they're going to be the default examples. But if you look at tools, there's a couple of places where I look and where I say, hey, these people are trying something different. Like, definitely look at what Adam is doing with System Initiative. It's different. It's not. I don't know if I'm the audience, but it's different, and it's a good idea.
Adam was already in the list, so yes, I would say.
There's a good chance that everybody who I'm going to suggest is already in your list, right? Look at if you look at what when monitoring or observability, what's happening there. Talk to the folks from CoRoot. Like, they're thinking about things differently. They're not thinking about the traditional way of monitoring. They're not thinking about the traditional way of doing observability, and then. Let's not get to observability 2.0 because that's actually 10 years old. But they're taking a different approach. And from what I've been playing with, it works. It's good fun. It's still early days. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Can you say a name, the name of the product?
Yeah, I'll CoRoot. I'll actually type it for you here.
Okay.
I'll be
CoRoot. Okay, interesting.
I'll be talking about it in a couple of weeks at the OSMC, because to me, CoRoot was one of those tools. Like, what year did we start doing Puppet? Like, what year was 024? I don't know. It's been ages, but that was like Puppet at that point was like a tool where it was like, okay, you looked at LCFG, you looked at BCFG2, CF Engine, you played with it. It was too complex. It didn't really you kept shooting yourself in the foot with it, and then Puppet popped up. It's like, whoa, this is cool. This is gonna make us move forward. This is gonna get us somewhere. And it's, to me, it's been a while since I bumped into a tool like that I really liked. I was like, oh, this is gonna help me. This is gonna work. When I've been doing open source monitoring, observability stuff for ages. Been playing with all of the tools out there that I could get my hands on that were open source. And it was always like, oh yeah, this is cool, but it doesn't fit here. This is cool, but it doesn't do this. And looking at Code was like, okay, this fits the whole ecosystem. It's not, it just works on this part. It actually gives me an overview of what I want. It allows me to do project-based thingies. It does things different in a way that you look at the stack and you say like, I wouldn't have seen that problem. I need to dig into this because there's a potential problem here. Not DNS for a case.
For a time, it's past the time of DNS problems. No,
It's,
it never passes.
Still points out DNS problems, but it gives you other potentials too.
Interesting.
And to me, it was like, oh, this is fun. This is fun again. Like, play with this and throw this at a stack and see what you can learn from it. And actually learning from that data. That, to me, that was fun. So those are definitely people that are interesting to talk to. But there's so much things moving on.
Interesting.
On how he thinks about using AI into preventing mistakes from happening in your infrastructure.
Dylan
They got
Radcliffe,
great
you mean,
teachers.
over Mind?
Yeah.
It's in the list. But Karuta was not. I guess I will contact some of them. Cool, very interesting, actually. By the way, you mentioned Puppet. What do you think is the present and the future of Puppet?
Puppet was feature complete around Puppet 7. It works. Don't break it. That's basically my goal. Like, keep using it, but it does what it needs to do. It fits into the ecosystem. It's needed, but please don't break it. I mean, that is to me the message to Perforce. Like, keep it the way it is, and that's good enough.
Is needed, but in this cloud native world is somehow not necessary anymore, unless to manage the
In the
hosts.
cloud native world, no. But if I look at percentages, just in my customer base, the ones that are fully cloud native, that's 35% maybe.
Okay.
Then there's the one that run a lot of infrastructure, try to be cloud native on their own infrastructure. They still need something to do desired state. I mean, there's never a 100% cloud native ecosystem, except in the younger companies that were like, hey, we start from scratch, but everything else and migrating things, give it another 15 years. Like, there's still applications that have been running for 10 plus years that are still, I mean, you know what legacy is, right? Legacy is what generates revenue. They're not going to be shut down. And we look at the industry and we see, oh, this is running here. This is new. And absolutely, that's fun. But that's the things people talk about. That's the things people go to conferences and say, hey, we built this thing. But in the larger part of that company, there are still the things that generate revenue, the things that need to be kept on, the things that work. And we still need to, that is still the DevOps gaps. Like, if you have 100 euros to spend, spend 10 to 20 euros on functionality, but keep that 80 euros around because you need to keep it up and running, and you need to maintain it, and you need to patch it, and you need to secure it till you decommission it. And so many stacks, even now, are running for a decade or longer.
Yep. Sometimes I wonder how these very short, long-term support policies of some companies can cope with the actual real world of corporations where there is a very old infrastructure or very old software or very old operating systems.
You see a bunch of those small companies just go bankrupt within 2-3 years. And yeah, if that's fully built and unmanaged, they're gone anyhow. But a lot of the larger organizations that are longer running, they have so many stacks to manage.
Yeah. And the problem is that they don't have support, maybe, or they overpay a lot for extended support, which is painful. Yeah, I guess the IT world on paper runs fast. In the real world, in the user space, so to say,
innovation happens fast, but adoption is a different thing. And adoption is sometimes really, really, really slow. And sometimes it's fast. But I think to me, it always is like, are you looking for a problem for your solution, or are you looking for a solution for your problem? And a lot of the new technologies, a lot of the hype things are solutions looking for a problem.
Indeed.
And that is something that as an industry we need to fix. We need to stop creating problems and start figuring out where we actually need improvements.
Well, I guess it's hard because people like what's new and fancy and hyped and
yeah, which is why they like to do platform ops, which is literally the same as which is why they like to do GitOps with it, which is just plain old. If it's done right, it's good infrastructure as code.
Yeah. Good old Kris, always sarcastic in some way.
Realistic,
Yeah.
experience, opinionated, whatever you want to call it.
Cool. So I would say let's finish with the question I haven't asked. So if you would like to reply to a question that I've not asked, but you would like to reply to.
A question you didn't ask.
Yeah, and a reply you want to give.
It's DNS.
It's always a DNS.
Yeah, so you asked me for the root cause of the problem, right?
Yeah, indeed. It's always DNS. So, Kris, thank you very much. It has been enjoyable and, as usual, quite stimulating to talk with you. See you soon, I guess.
I haven't seen a talk submission from you yet.
I will, but I don't know what to talk about. It will be the usual Puppet-related thing, and yeah, I don't know. I have to find
what
some
are you
topic.
looking into these days?
I'm still with Puppet in terms of I'm being very expert and very vertical on Puppet. I can let's say position myself in the market much better than I would be able to do in any other technology. But I understand that's something which I don't know how long it will last. Maybe I will be the Puppet Cowboy, as there are the Puppet Cowboys keeping all the people managing an old language. Maybe I will become the same with Puppet. I do follow other things, but I don't actually work on them. And that's my limitation, I would say. And I always say that you learn things when you actually work with them, not when you study them on paper on your own personal lab.
There's a risk there too. Once you start digging into them, you might realize how bad they are.
And so you get scared and run away. Or you become an expert in solving and fixing them.
Yeah.
In some way. We will see anyway. We will see. I will submit a talk. I also promised Toshan to sponsor the event. I hope he forgot, but I guess I will do something. So, see you soon in Ghent, and take care.
See you in
All the
Ghent.
best.
And for everybody who's listening, submit talks to Config Management Camp. I don't know when you'll publish this, but should be soon enough. There should be still time.
Let's do that.
Abnormal DevOps Iterations.